Welcome to the American Pulse, where your voice matters the most. I am Dr. Nick Nickham, along with Bangar Reddy. We will be here for the next hour. We bring you exciting news, interesting guests, and we have vibrant debates. If you would like to be a guest on the American Pulse, give us a call. If you are a student and you would like to volunteer, we would like to hear from you. Yes, indeed. Your voice matters most on the American Pulse. So let's start. Give us a call. The number here is 713-974-4000. Again, the number here is 713-974-4000. We will be right back after these messages.
Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the American Pulse. I am Dr. Nick Nickham along with Bangar Reddy here on 99.5 FM. The number to call here is 713-974-4000. We are on the final stretch for the November 8th decision, the D-Day. Bangar, welcome.
Thank you.
You need to speak in...
Thank you, Dr. Nick.
Yeah.
This is, you know that a lot is happening, especially with elections. It's not just about elections. It is more about people are trying to see that there will be some changes coming in after November 8th. The market is completely down and it is not, going anywhere, and a lot of news that are not really positive at this time. And therefore, everybody is waiting for a positive outcome, positive change on November 8th. And I'm sure things will unfold in the favor of America after November 8th.
Well, not according to Biden. He says the economy is doing good. The inflation is under control. The gas prices have come down. And he doesn't think there's a recession, even though 6 or 8 experts all across the globe, they say there is a recession coming in the next 8 to 12 months, or maybe 6 months. I don't know, who is advising him, but everything you hear from his mouth, it has gone so bad, even the CNN is fact-checking on.
That I was about to say. Even you can go to the liberal channels and see when they are saying that things are going not in the way they are, and that exactly tells that, Biden is lying. I would say he's basically lying, or he's too bold to tell all the false information giving to the American people as the president of United States.
I seriously doubt he even knows what he is talking about. It's all written script by the Democratic operatives, whoever they are. I don't know who those people are, but they are going to be running the country now. But I would like to see a change, because what has happened in the last 2 years is like a train wreck, like a Titanic explosion, like Hurricane Harvey or Katrina. I mean, the devastation is all across the country. We're not talking about Houston or New Orleans, like in a hurricane situation. The economy has affected every aspect of the American communities, from school teachers to parents to the business people, for labor force. Everywhere you go, and this inflation is just killing people right and left economically. What is your take?
Exactly. And as you really look at it, during Barack Obama time, so they are so, victorious about they are going to win. If you remember, they lost it because they have not checked the pulse of America. American people looks for their daily living. It's not about party ideology. People need to come out of ideology and focus on what is required, what comes to the table. And this election midterm is more about local elections.
Yes.
Look at the candidates, look at their qualifications. I think people are positively responding, and they have seen, and I see that there is a swing votes. People are changing, people are realizing. But what I see is not that many Asian voters are participating.
Yeah, I think
That's
we need to talk about it. Particularly the independents are more and more of them are moving now towards the right side, because they realize their lives have been shattered by this the left-wing agenda, the liberal, socialistic, communistic approach, which has been destroying the American dream, the American hopes, and of course the economy, which is in shambles.
So we are on Radio The Bang 99.5 American Pulse. and those who would like to participate in this is a special election segment. Join us, call us at 713-974-4000. We are on American Pulse. Call us 713-974-4000. Today we have a full segment focusing on election 2022, and we are very close to edition day, November 8th.
7 p.m. It will start from the East Coast. The first thing will be a big race, a Senate race in Pennsylvania.
So tell me,
If Pennsylvania, if Dr. Oz gets it, then we know the red wave is going to sweep across the country, because that's a big Senate seat. Talking about, you just mentioned the word economy. I want to emphasize the fact that historically, all elections have been decided on the economy. Back when George Bush Sr. won the Gulf War, he had an 85% approval rate. 1 year down the line, when the economy tanked, he lost his second bid for the White House. I mean, I don't care, how good you are, how charismatic you are, or how charming you are, or how stupid you are. At the end of the day, it is the economy. People look at their pocketbook, they look at their savings, they look at their children's education, they look at safety in their neighborhood. And those are the things that are going to make a difference. And that's where I think we talked about the local elections. The crime rate is just rampant all across the country. And in Fort Bend County, which I thought was the safest county where I have lived for 40 years, now I am even afraid to go to the mall because I'm afraid somebody's going to break into my car.
So that is the change we are seeing. Lot of Americans in the rural areas, living in rural areas, they are going and voting in big numbers. It's a big wave. The reason being, it is the crime. They don't want, the very reason they go and live in particulars, in the rural areas is for the safety, and they want to have their own life, nobody disturbing them, but it's filtering everywhere. And I thought this is the time to go and vote and participate in elections. That's the one change I see, that crime is becoming once upon a time it was just isolated incidents, right? Only to particular county or particular precinct. But now I think crime is number one people are looking at, and number two is definitely inflation. Your paycheck is not enough to cover the cost at all, and that's the most important. And they don't see any actions that the government is taking that's going to help, because everywhere they put a finger, it's really spoiled. When you look at the oil industry, it's gone. And you talk about funding the police, it's they're not thinking
non-existent.
about what it is. Anything you talk about jobs are not getting created.
Well, you see,
in fact,
that's an illusion. When you talk about jobs, the more jobs you create, the more it adds to the inflation, the more it adds to the cost of goods and services, because there's increased wages, there's increased taxes, and so it is like a double-edged sword. Every time they come up with a better job result, the stock market tanks, because they are afraid that they are headed into recession, and Jerome Powell can't do anything. I mean, he's way far behind, and I don't think they have much ammunition to really control this inflation, because it is on its own. It has no control.
And people are, these politicians are living 10 to 20 years behind. They are not understanding what is American people looking for, because they would like to gain votes based on racism. Still majority of candidates just keep talking about racism. You have to vote for me because the other person is not treating you well. And that is the only agenda. And that's the agenda right now. What we are suffering is our paycheck is not enough. I don't have a job. We don't have a safety, and our schools are polluted, and there is a woke culture everywhere. I'm not happy what is happening with this gender classifications. You have like a one-page gender classification. So we are working on how to divide the people. We are not working towards how to bring the people together. And that's why I would very much say that Democratic has failed the promise of Biden, saying that he is going to bring the country together. In fact, he divided into pieces.
He is the one who has divided his country the most. Bill Clinton was far better. At least he talked to the people on the other side of the aisle. This gentleman is treating all the Republicans as like enemies of the state. I mean, the way he talks, even in his presentations, he gives an impression that MAGA, I don't even know what the heck these stand for. Republicans, patriots. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? On January 21st, 2 years ago, you said you're the uniter and you are the most divisive president we have come across. Talking about the minority race you just mentioned, actually, the Democrats have taken the minorities for granted for decades. They have taken them for a ride. They will attend their churches and their meetings during election time. And once the elections are done, these people are left alone. They receive nothing in terms of subsidies. And the low income neighborhoods are being ransacked by crime, and businesses are leaving these places. As a result of the democratic process, the low income communities are getting worse and worse. And they still, think that, we are doing a great service to the minorities. But if you look at the number of Hispanics that are running on the Republican ticket, if you look at the number of people who are running on the the blacks who are running on the Republican ticket, that is much better telling than what Biden is telling you on his speeches.
That is the narrative, right? They brush off any Asian joins the Republican Party, they don't understand what the change is real. And when African Americans are, really the conservatives, they don't understand.
Yeah.
And they keep on anti-Trump rhetoric. And anti-Trump rhetoric is not about America. They need to focus on what is required, what people are looking for, especially jobs, economy, and good principles to save money rather than just giving the freebies. And also you have seen, right, there is so much hangama, especially about our COVID. And nothing has changed. No other additional vaccination or no preventive measures. It is more about how to control us using the COVID as a tool and how to really look at where we are, trace us. But rather they failed to really see how we are prepared with more vaccinations. Are we prepared for any emergencies? Haven't seen any scientific reasons of coming forward with some new technologies or new inventions to prevent vaccinations. But it's more about how to control the people, and that's not going to work.
Talking about COVID, more people have died during Biden administration in 2 years than during Trump administration, and nothing is covered in the mainstream media or the liberal media. Because when Trump was in office running, remember in November and October, they were running, it's 200,000, 400,000 deaths on the blood of 400,000 people in his hands and all these things. Now, not a single word about COVID, and it continues to be a problem. And as you said, we don't have any solutions. We don't have answers as to where the COVID originated. And once they get hold of the House, I hope they get hold of the Senate too. I think everybody should be held responsible and get to the bottom of what is happening, what happened to the COVID, where did it originate? Because a lot of things have been suppressed, pushed under the rug by the Democratic operatives, and this is the time for them to dig up all this dirt and also the laptop. Let's not forget the laptop.
That's not the laptop.
In fact, the FBI has come up with observations that they have enough evidence to prosecute Hunter Biden. The latest news.
That's true. I think that is exactly why do we need a change in Washington, D.C. And I'm sure after November 8th, we are going to see a change in Senate. We are expecting minimum 54 seats. The balance of power would change. And then we are also going to it is going to be a Congress majority that will put everything back on track. And I think we will focus more on how to bring economy back on track, number one.
Talking about economy, I'll tell you, as soon as the elections are over, hoping that the Republicans will get hold of the Senate.
And we want Biden to be a puppet Biden.
Well, I'll tell you what he's going to be. I have a particular term. I don't know if I want to say it on the radio. Once the elections are over, I want to get all the Republican candidates here and say, okay, let's go through the checklist. All the things that you complained about are now your problems. How do you address the oil crisis? How do you address the inflation? How do you address the interest rates? I mean, I'm going to drill them, because they are Republicans. I mean, I want answers because I am a citizen here and I'm paying taxes and I'm facing all this high inflation, interest rates, and high grocery prices. They need to be able to answer and put down their finger and say, okay, here, by end of 12 months, this is what I'm going to be doing. If they don't do it, then, the next election is going to be around the corner. So they have only 12 to maybe 15 months of time to prove that they can make a change. I mean, to me, I think they have a bigger challenge than just winning the election at this time.
I can definitely answer for that. What we have to be prepared for after the elections,
Yes.
when we take over the Senate, when we take over the Congress, the major focus is to make sure we should not talk about divisive politics. It's not about the fight between Democrats and Republicans. That is over. People have given power for
This
the
is about-
Republican Party to see what
Yes.
they can change. So with that, first thing I would say is, as you said, well said, how to bring the economy. We should not go back to the old
Yes.
where they used to fight and never balance the budget or bring the budget, approve the budget. So we should not get into the such situation. And I think that's what they are going to hold on. Like, we pass one budget and Biden will stop it. Those kind of politics will never going to play, because Americans are looking for a change for their life. And the change would happen by bringing the change to Congress, change to Senate. And on top of that, the change would come when local elected officials are working
Yes.
on the ground, not listening to what is the instructions coming from, Washington, D.C. They should work for local issues.
Well, that's where they're getting the money from for the election. So they got to be loyal to the master. That's what. No, really, I think the Republicans have to show action from day one. Otherwise, they would have very little chance of convincing the people. And they are against a very, very strong headwind, because the recession is going to come whether it's Republicans or Democrats in the office. And when that is the case, the Republicans have a double duty to, one, take this economy and turn it around, the Titanic, and from hitting the iceberg, and on top of that, show some progress.
Yes, we are on American Pulse, and Dr. Nick Nickham and myself, Bangar Reddy. And call us on 713-974-4000. This is about elections, the midterm elections, and elections are November 8th. That is the last day of election. All the listeners, it is your divine duty to go and exercise your vote. And if you do not vote, you don't have to, you cannot complain about. Go and vote. Everybody, 100% we should go and vote. This is an exercise we must have to do. And unless we vote and elect your right candidate, and I think it is going to really impact what is coming onto your dinner table.
I think you hit it right on the top of the casket. I tell you, the most important thing is our vote. Each vote counts, because I had never voted for 10 years in Fort Bend County when I had moved in. And that year I went and voted, and one candidate won the city council by one vote. I'm not claiming my vote put him in the office, but if I hadn't voted it would have made a difference. And everybody claimed that his vote made a difference, and that's what I'm trying to emphasize, that everybody's vote counts, because you are the one who needs to decide your destiny, and you do that by casting your ballot to the right people. If you don't like something that is not right, we need to change the direction. We need to get a new leadership. And I mean, that is the thing that we have to do. If you don't go and vote, what's going to happen is you are giving an extra vote to the opponent, who is going to continue the same status quo and make things worse, which we already know the whole country is moving to a communistic, socialistic. It's worse than communistic, socialistic country, because in those countries, they have a dictator who controls everything. They don't have people running rampant and shooting or stealing and crime and all these things. You don't hear about crime in Russia or China. So we are going to be worse than those communistic and socialistic countries because we have no control over anything. And being liberal, they think it's woke culture. It's great, but it is going to be destroying America from top to bottom.
And you said it, Dr. Nick, so well. I think people are not looking for any complaints from any party. Either party, they are not looking for complaints. They are looking for solutions. And the solutions would come when we focus on issues, not on ideology. And I think we should come out of the ideology, look at what is on the ground situation. As I keep repeating that, it's most important for both Republicans and Democrats. And Democrats would lose because they have gone too far from the realistic.
Yes.
They haven't seen what the local problems are.
Yes.
They are going on ideology, on racism, and something like anti-Trump rhetoric. but people are so tired of listening again and again. They are aware of it. And Republican Party is, I think, reaching out to the grassroots, and they are working hard, especially on crime, and especially on education, especially on culture, especially on keeping jobs, especially bringing back our oil and energy, bringing back America back on track, immigration, making sure that we have a legal immigration leaves, and illegal immigration must have to die. We should not encourage illegal immigration whatsoever. Biden is deaf on listening to the problems of immigration. You need to focus on what is right for the country. We need to bring those who are qualified, who are legally eligible,
Yes.
and who want to bring America, who can bring America back on track. We don't want somebody who talks against America entering
Yes.
into the United States.
2 million illegal immigrants in a span of 2 years crossing the whole southern border. Texas has taken the biggest brunt. Not only are we talking about 2 million illegal immigrants, they are bringing crime, they are bringing drugs, they are bringing fentanyl. And the amount of people dying from these drug overdoses have skyrocketed, and the whole thing is become a total chaos. As I said, to me, it is like a nuclear holocaust. The country has been shattered into so many different directions. We do need a change, and I would like our Republican candidates or conservative candidates to work in hand with the Democrats and get things done. Leave all this bickering, because you cannot survive on your own, because the Democrats have done this for the entire 2 years. They have unilaterally approved all the bills, and I would rather work as a team, compromise some places, because Democrats, some of them do have some good ideas and policies, but for the most of what we have seen in the last 2 years is nothing but disaster, disaster after disaster.
Yes, you said it, Nick. We have to come out of something like what Republican does, everything is wrong by Democrats
Yes.
claim. And the same thing, whatever Democrat does, Republicans claim that everything is wrong. It cannot be, because we have to look at what really the politics is about. I keep saying about public service. In this public service, you need to look at the real terms. Just like I'm in IT industry,
Yes.
I'm a technologist. I believe in the truth. And we say the compilation of the code. The code will not compile if you have any gossip in it, if it is something that you have put in the code that is not intended for that, it is not going to compile. So that means just if you relate that to the politics, unless you are truthful, unless you have a direction, unless you have a vision, unless you have a stability that you are looking for, unless you are one of the victims that you suffered because of the policies of the government, you will never understand. And if you are somebody from a top level, becoming a politician, you never. That's why we have to look for people who are at the grassroots level.
Grassroots level,
and
yes.
They can understand the pain, and they favor people on top of politics.
The
Hispanic
Hispanic groups have understood that for the last 200 years, they have been supporting the Democratic Party. Now they realize that Democrats do nothing to them. And see how many candidates are running on a Republican ticket. We have several people right here in Texas, all the way from Corpus Christi, running for the Republican positions in from the Hispanic community.
And also that means I think the Hispanic community are the decision makers for the
Yes.
midterm elections. All the way from all over the America have been wonderful, and we really appreciate the Hispanic community, Asian community coming in big numbers, and they understood what is important. They continue to work hard on for daily wage. You know that how much work
Yeah.
that the different cultures bring rich heritage, lot of knowledge, and they bring hard work into America and bringing America back on track. Hats off to these ethnic groups. But at the same time, I would like to say a few more things that especially in local politics, the things have changed.
Yes.
It is no more a monotony. That means we cannot work on ideologies. I keep saying people have to come for public service. And how this public service comes, you need to have love for America. That means you need to have how my country can be better. And you have to, in order to bring patriotic America, and there is nothing wrong having a nationalist ideology, because you want your country to be the prosperous, so that you can help other countries or other groups across the world. People can only listen if you are a superpower.
They
Otherwise,
say
why they will?
all politics are local. It starts at the dining table with the husband and the wife and the kids, and it goes to the city and the county. I mean, it all boils down to what's happening at the local level, and everything multiplied together with 50 states is what is reflected in the national.
And one that November 8th, the morning, people stand in the line. It's going to be a beautiful day, and then the elections result starts coming, and I'm sure there is going to be a big change in the horizon of the landscape of America, and which we are looking for. But a request for Republican candidates or all the public officials, when you get elected, keep your personal or your ideology aside.
Yes.
And you look into your clean paper, what you have been, promises that you have made, the checklist of promises. And based on those checklists, and you have to work above political divisions.
Yes.
And above your religious beliefs. What is
Absolutely.
happening is people are divided, that I am an Asian American, I am a Hindu American, I am a Muslim American, I am a Christian American, and I am a Democrat, and I am a liberal. When you get elected as an official, you need to believe that you are representing everybody.
Well, if you are a council member, you're representing the whole city. You're a county, you're representing the entire, like Brazos or Harris or Fort Bend County. So we should remove all these labels, and that's what Biden said. I'm for all Americans, and everything he has done is, chastising the patriots, chastising Trump followers. That's not uniting the country.
I mean, that people went to an extent that the nationalists are the terrorists. That's such a bad word to use.
No,
when you're in
the last speech he said, if you are voting for the Republicans, you are voting for the what did I forgot the term you used. You're voting for the.
Yeah, it's basically interpreting that voting for a violent.
It's
not that. I think president has a lot of responsibility. Lot of responsibility. What he talks makes a lot of sense. Should make sense. But Biden, he doesn't even. I don't think he has any cognitive sense of what he's talking, and I think he's just reading the papers given by others. And he's forgetting what is, I don't think I have really doubts about his qualifications to run such a big superpower. But people are so generous, and they accepted him under circumstances. But I think he need to come out of that rhetoric and focus more on solving the issues in his remaining 2 years of timeline. And his age matters, so that means he should take a back seat and let the administration run the show. And I think people, even the advice for the Democratic Party is to keep Biden behind. Keep Biden behind is the next 2 year slogan. And I think that's what CNN has also started thinking that, they just, today and yesterday's article, you see that they just started dumping him. and that's
But
what's going to happen.
everybody is asking, are you going to meet the Republicans? Are you going to have a meeting with these Republicans and all these things? And he acts like, I have the veto power. I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need to listen to anybody. But just because he doesn't listen to anybody, that's why the country is in this shape today, which no president in the American history has ruined the country in 18 months as much as Biden has done in all aspects, economics and business, oil, heating oil and gasoline. I mean, you name it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the listeners. You are on Radio Dabang 99.5. We have a special segment on midterm elections.
Hello?
And call us at 713-974-4000. Let us talk about clean and clear politics. Questions?
Okay, hold on. Yes.
Put him on speaker.
Okay, we have a caller who would like to share his views. Let's see here.
Absolutely.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, good. Go ahead, please. We would love. Could you please identify yourself and share your thoughts?
Yeah, my name is Shazad. I was listening to your comments on the way. So, you said, I heard you giving
Go ahead.
something about
Question.
Democrats.
Ask the question. Ask the question.
My question is, why are you chastising the current administration? Because remember, always Republicans, finish their administration and the Democrats come and clean it up. And then when the Republicans come back again and they, ruin the economy. What happened in 2008 when Obama came? He got an empty coffin. Then he had to rebuild it, and then Trump came in. The same guy out in 4 years, he ruined the economy. The stock market went up. Sorry, I'll correct myself.
So that is what exactly. Yeah, I got your question.
What happened? And he's a capitalist. I understand. But what happened on January 6th? He just brought his troops out there and destroyed the democracy. So how can you say that he was the best president and this guy is the worst?
Again, I remember. I got your question. I think
Okay,
I
so-
keep saying it is Democrat Party or Democratic ideology. It's all about talking about Trump, or there is anything that you can offer what is working today? Can you answer
Yes.
the questions? What is working today? Forget about what is in the past.
So we have been talking about what has happened to the economy as we speak today. So we're not, it's the ruling party that gets all the blame for things that are not going right during an election year or even off election year. I mean, that's how the politicians, you can hang up and listen. So that's how the elections work, because if you look at any aspect of it, the grocery prices, the interest rates, the inflation, gas prices, and the open borders, drugs, fentanyl, people dying from all these drug overdoses. These are all real facts, and
So,
these were all.
that is definitely a good question from the caller.
Yes.
We have a few 20 more minutes. We are going to talk on local politics. We'll take one issue at a time.
Yeah.
We will educate talkers like him who are brainwashed, especially brainwashed, always talking about racism,
Yes.
always saying that we are the Rambos, we saved the economy, and Trump left it everything bad. Remember how Barack Obama lost the election? How he gave up on Michigan, and he never thought he's going to lose, but he lost because he was not listening to what the ground situation was. And similar to the Wisconsin, how things lost. And again, what is happening in Pennsylvania? Listen to the people. The listeners, I would say, listen to the people. Look at the issues. We are not talking about here what is the great things about the Republican Party.
Yes.
Here we are talking about what are the current situation, and it's been 2 years. And the current administration is responsible, and the decisions that are taken that are reversed by the current administration are actually the reasons for the failure today. It is not what the previous administration
Yes.
done. It is the reverse. Immigration is reversed. Oil
Borders.
industry reversed. On the crime, it is reversed. Budget, it is reversed. It is all about identity politics. Can we come out of that and focus on what is on the ground, what needs to be done, so that we have bread and butter on our table to the families?
Yeah, you see, I'm not even tied to or married to a religious political party. I am, more married to an ideology which is, having a conservative approach and making sure that we meet our demands in our everyday life. I've been stressing all along during this hour. People sitting at the dining table in the kitchen discussions, that's what they are looking at. What is my purchasing power? What is my job situation? What is happening to my taxes? And what's happening to my savings? And these are the things. And what's happening in the schools? How come parents are treated like traitors or domestic terrorists? I mean, these are things we had never dreamed of seeing in America, where the parents are treated like domestic terrorists and being followed by FBI. Are you all kidding?
So
Just-
I think, Dr. Nick, we definitely covered a lot on national politics. Let's take one item at a time so
Yes.
that we will be more. I think this session should educate and enlighten the people who are going to vote on November 8th. And they should remember why they should opt for a change. And they should work beyond religious politics. Again, I would like to say it is not about Asian Americans, Muslim Americans, Indian Americans, Hindu Americans, Latino Americans. We are all Americans. We all have to make sure who is qualified candidate and what is the agenda. They have to go back and look at the checklist. What is this person is qualified or capable of doing it? And so let's take one item at a time.
Before
Let's
we
take the
go
Fort
into
Bend
that,
County.
I want to emphasize the poor turnout by especially the Indian community or the South Asian community in general. In most other groups, the Caucasian and other ethnic groups, the turnout is far better than what we have seen in the South Asian community. And that is something which is kind of very disturbing, because we have the most educated, knowledgeable families who are two-member earning families, and they know what is going on, and they feel the pain of changes in this economy, and still they don't get up and go and vote. And if you see, only about less than 50% of the South Asian population is registered, out of which only about 3 to 4% of them have voted in the early voting period. That is a very small number. And why do you want to go on an election day and stand there for 2 hours just to vote? Because during the early election period, it would have probably taken you like 10-15 minutes, depending upon the location. So that's something I really like to emphasize, because it's the same people who complain, and yet they don't take the initiative to make that one vote difference, which can change the direction. This gentleman thought, we are always chastising Democrats and they are chastising Republicans. But I am far beyond that. I'm talking about what is good for the country, what is good for the American people, what is good for the families, and what is good for our children's future. I mean, that is
Because
important.
No, Dr. Nick, why that is happening is that's how our populations are brainwashed.
Yes.
Brainwash is always you find fault on the other person
Yes.
so that you look good. But I want the listeners to please look at the candidates, what they are promising for. Let's take one at a time. Do you want really the woke culture coming into schools where they are going to teach something you have never taught your children? Do you want that to happen? And do you think that is safe? And number two, that's number one.
Yes.
Because it's coming to the schools. Then number two, tax. Property taxes are increased.
Absolutely.
And nobody is paying, that the Democrats are paying more attention on spending, but they are not trying to see how to reduce the taxes. So here I have seen the county judge, the opponent running, Trevor Nails, he promised, his first promise is to cut the property taxes. Help cutting the property taxes.
The key factor is, this opponent is claiming that we reduced the tax rate by 16 cents, but they failed to mention that the property values have gone up, and even when the property values drop by 20%, those tax evaluations never came down. So they are basically fooling the public by saying that we're giving you a tax break, but at the end of the year, you're paying more tax than you paid last year, even though your property value is 20% lower than what it was last year. So, I mean, this is how they like to fool the public and try to convince them that they are doing something, which is they should be reducing the property evaluations, not, just giving a false narrative that they are reducing the taxes.
Yeah, and also I see, proven leadership. I don't know what is proven leadership is, because they say I'm a proven leadership, having maybe this experience is what proven leadership is. Why I say is, here is Trevor Nails. Take him as an example.
Yes.
From 19 years age onwards, he was kind of went into the, especially, working in the law
Yes.
enforcement area, and he is a grassroots leader. It's not like he has, come with a, gold spoon. He has to work on the street, work day by day. He knows every street in Fort Bend County. And then he grew up serving the community, and he served as a constable. And afterwards, he also served in Afghanistan, and he served in many other areas. And he has led he has led during the Afghanistan and
Yeah.
other wars. And you are comparing a person who dedicated his life to somebody who has, failed to administer, and unless somebody writes 4 lines, he cannot speak his own lines. So that's the kind of leadership we have. We must need to change that.
Well, they always say, look at my record. I said, what is there to look at your record? The crime has doubled in Fort Bend County. The taxes have gone up, and the roads have more potholes than they were before. So, I mean, then they say, what do you have to tell us that you're going to do something different this time? They don't have any answers. They say, look at my record. I said, the record speaks for itself, as, all the failed policies.
So Fort Bend County needs a proven leadership, yes. Proven leadership means who can understand the problems that are here, not listening to the bosses in Washington, D.C., or listening to the Harris County. We need Fort Bend County issues to be resolved here in Fort Bend County. A person who can understand the infrastructure, who can understand the drainage and traffic controls and everything that is, and even, more importantly, the flood mitigation, where we worked very
Yes.
hard. I myself have a good experience during Hurricane Harvey, spent months and months, going after every street. Especially we are surrounded by reservoirs, we are surrounded by these floodgates, and sometimes if the flood comes in from upstream all the way from Arkansas and even
Yes.
further upstream, if it comes, we have no other option but to open the gates. That is where our neighborhoods will be flooded.
I remember during the Harvey, the entire Cinco Ranch was
Cinco Ranch and
underwater.
Millwood.
I remember with our AAN media, we went street by street where there's piles and piles of sheetrocks and debris. This looked like a nuclear holocaust again from the Harvey disaster.
So this is not politics. This requires more long-term thinking, where we need to work with different groups, local level, state level, federal level, bring everybody together, understand the depth of the problem in Fort Bend as well as in Harris County. And this emergency will come again, and we are going to be facing that. It's not going to work with a couple of meetings or doing certain X amount of budget
Yes.
spending. It's more about strategy. It's more about planning the infrastructure to build such that we are safer. And I think the leadership has forgotten about that completely, and also forgotten about the COVID, because there is a lot of corruption in the the project is given. You see that there is a newspaper. There is the corruption details are coming in, pouring in. And so there is no leadership on overall what is happening related to COVID. When you have a corruption, the quality is gone. When we even hear about it, that
Yes.
means you are not serious about the COVID, because you are opting for somebody who has done the favors, and you are taking him and you are jeopardizing the quality and health services of, especially related to vaccination, right?
Well,
That
when
is
you
second.
see something in the newspaper, there's a lot of things going wrong behind what you can see in the newspaper. So this is just like a tip of the iceberg. They like to sugarcoat everything, that everything is fine and all these things. No, just take Texas, for example. The border crisis has created a real emergency in the whole state of Texas, with illegal immigrants coming and all these gangs moving in, drugs and dopes, all these things. Plus, and these Democrats were just crying just because they sent a 2 busload of people to Martha's Vineyard. And so, see, they don't want anybody.
Because we never know the pain until it comes to our aid,
Yeah,
right? So same thing about the crime. We are fortunate that the Asian community is fortunate enough to live in a neighborhoods that are safe, and maybe in the neighborhoods that are gated community. But when it comes to, remember, the crime rate has increased every 38 minutes, right? There is one incident here in Fort Bend, whereas in
That's
Harris
very
every
scary.
minute there is an incident.
Yeah.
And that is coming, and it's doubling. And we are thinking that there is not enough funding for the because there is a defund police thing is going on. On top of that, Governor Abbott stopped, but our judge was trying to make Fort Bend as a sanctuary city.
Yeah, I
Imagine
remember.
If we make
yeah.
a sanctuary city, what would have happened?
No, not only that, the same criminals are committing crimes over and over again. And I read somewhere there are like so many hundreds of people who have never been brought to the trial, and they are running rampant. And when you have these liberal judges who are letting all these people on the street who have committed crime, the crime is just going to continue to multiply. And this is going to have a profound effect on the quality of life for everybody in the Fort Bend County and the surrounding counties.
Absolutely. You are on Radio Dabang on American Pulse 713-974-4000. And that's Nick Nickam and myself, Bangar Reddy. And we are here to talk the remaining segment on specially local politics. And the next item we are going to talk more about is let's talk about because oil is very important in our city.
State,
a lot
yes.
of employees, as you see, my neighborhood or anybody, whether you see Katy or Sugarland, Full Share, any area you take, many of the employees have this oil industry background. And you know that Biden is always threatened, saying that I'm going to stop this every time. And local administration is also supporting that unless there is alternative jobs that are created, we cannot stop something without
No, you
starting
can't stop something without an alternative in place. You don't have an alternative solar or wind power in place to take place of the oil and gasoline. This is a travesty. A country which was oil independent before he came on board, he has driven this country into a oil depletion. There's only like 2 to 3 weeks of diesel left in the entire country, and the heating oil is going to be a major issue in the Northeast, where people are going to have a very, very cold Christmas. I can tell you that from what I hear from all the sources. But the important thing is he tried to do everything to kill the oil industry. On top of that, when the gas prices shot up to $6, and he was trying to patch it up with some kind of this one, and the oil prices peaked in June. We didn't have a national emergency then, but 2 weeks now before the election, all of a sudden he has an emergency to relieve the strategic oil reserves. I said, what is the emergency? Well, the emergency is November election. We need to please some voters. I mean, this is so screwed up. Honestly, I think the oil industry is the first topic the House and the Senate has to address and make sure that we restore some sanity about making America more independent about oil, because we shouldn't be influenced by war in Ukraine. We shouldn't be influenced by what's happening in Iran. I think the country was self-sufficient before.
Yeah, definitely. I think many of the independents and swing voters are feeling the pain, and that is echoing in your sentiment, Dr. Nick. You are not very specific to one party or the other. I remember you used to take the issues independently and then tear them off. And at least you can say that I am kind of one biased,
Yes.
I'm a conservative Republican, I'm proud to say. But again, for me, I'd say public service is above politics. I keep saying that, but we need a platform. And conservative, all Asian Americans, in my opinion, they have to disagree with me. All Asian Americans, by the way, when you came to United States, number one, you left socialism out.
Yes.
You are not a liberal. You believed in your hard work. You believed in your family values. You believed in your faith, and came to United States and used your knowledge and your effort,
Absolutely.
your hard work, and put into a place. And then you had a nice family, and you have family of 2+2 or 2+3, a great family where you want to have your child going to school, and you want them to grow like an engineers, doctors, politicians, anything you think of. And then you would like to, your wife, spouse and yourself having 2 jobs, having 2 cars, having a beautiful house, having great vacation. That's all we are for. And we would like a very safe neighborhoods. That's why America has embraced us with happiness and lot of good things for us. So we want that to continue, so that you get bread and butter onto the table, and your children can get to school and keep their identity, heritage, and that rich culture.
Yes.
And you don't want to spoil them at school with the woke culture. And you don't want to be spoiled because of several other things based on race, based on this. Where is it? I've been living here when great candidates, how can a judge complain about a racism when he could become a judge in
Yes.
America? Can this
Yes.
happen in India?
That's
I'm asking a very straight
kind
question.
of weird.
It happened in America. People like us,
Yeah.
people like, I am very happy to say people like Bangar, who brought up in a village, in a
Yes.
remote village, can come to United States and become a candidate running for Congress. I'm very proud to say that.
Yes.
And I never faced the racism. It's not a factor at all. And I'm not denying that there is no racism. But
The only people who are playing the race card are the Democrats. They have played this for decades. They have used the African American. They have taken the Hispanic groups for granted, and they have continued to support these people with getting nothing in return year after year. As a matter of fact, people were doing much better during Trump administration. The blacks and the Hispanics, their income levels went up. Their standard of living went up. And this didn't even happen during Obama's era, and they have been riding on their support for decades. I think things are going to change this time.
And I agree. Before we do the closing comments,
Yes.
I want to tell the very, very important thing that I want to bring everybody. See, the party or the public service not about giving more food stamps, like increasing 1 million food stamps to 10 million food stamps, or it is not about giving freebies, or it is not about whether I am being identified as a Indian American, or whether I am identified as a Muslim, or whether I am identified as a Hindu. We have come long way out of that. Our children are going to live like Americans. We have to live American way.
Yes.
And the way we can live American way is we have to change our thinking and everything. Forget about what happened in our mother countries.
Yes.
And here our children are Americans. And Americans means you look for how they can get to the jobs.
The only problem I see
and
with
how
the-
we can move those people who are getting these especially food stamps, get into the job.
Yes.
That's more important. How we can improve the lifestyle of the forgotten neighborhoods. And we didn't talk about the drugs and other stuff. And then how do we really and also we didn't talk about the mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health, drugs, and human trafficking are the major issues that are impacting the
Whole community.
especially entire community, rich and poor, and all the neighborhoods.
School
and
districts.
unless we are come out of it and focus on these issues instead of fighting on racism and our religion and about our just about ourselves, right? Always what is me. Instead of that, you should look for what is for the country. The values are driven by the country, and you should be very proud of serving America. And I would like to say, God bless America, and you always think for great things about America. And it's not about Republicans or Democrats. It is about how do we bring best life for everybody onto the table.
We are talking about children and school curriculum and what they are teaching the first grade kids about all these esoteric things. In fact, Florida banned them from teaching first grade kids about all these pronouns and like doing surgery for minors without parents' consent and all these things. I mean, these are all real issues because these board members are elected by the people and they are turning against the parents and treating them like domestic terrors. Think about it. I mean, everything we have discussed today, we have put facts. It doesn't matter whether it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. As I said, I'm not married to a religious political party. I am married to a conservative lifestyle which focuses on family, which focuses on the community, which focuses on improving our lifestyles. Because let's face it, America is a melting pot of 100 different cultures, and that's the way it's going to be. Rather than talking about cultural diversity, we should be talking about cultural unity in places where we can, like at business places, at schools, and in community events. We are all going to be different when we get home and we have our own lifestyles. So, ladies and gentlemen, from my perspective, I think we should look at not the party as such as how things have affected us in the last 2 years. And I made a big, long list, and we have discussed this many times in the past. Think about all these things that have affected your life, and is it been a positive impact or a negative impact?
And one last appeal is please go and vote on November 8th for your choice of your candidate. And it's very important, your voice, your strength. All the Americans should go and if you have... if exercise your vote. Your vote is your voice and your power. And you know how much it feels good when you go and vote and say that when you tell everybody that you are voted. And in spite of long lines, I would say don't give up. And even I think some of the offices, jobs, they give a paid holiday, right?
Yeah.
And you can check with that. And please Tuesday go and vote. Everybody must exercise your vote to your candidate, whom you love the most. And before you go there, read to the ballot. It's not about you make a decision at the parking lot. And I'm sure you are more educated and more not emotional, but you go by the facts and you go by what is the current issues. And the shift is happening, the change is happening. You are going to see that change on November 8th. And I'm positive about the outcome. And I'm sure we'll bring back our country back on track in the right direction.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to emphasize about voting, 95% of the South Asian population have not voted yet, the registered voters. So please do go out and exercise your right. As I said, if you don't like the way things have gone in the last 2 years, you know what to do. So we're not going to tell you what you need to do, and you know what needs to be done. And ladies and gentlemen, it's been a non-stop 1 hour discussion here on the last stretch to the November 8th election.
And it is really, I think, Dr. Nick, today we talked heart to heart. And
Yes.
I think we shared what is in and out, and we covered lots of topics. And this is Bangar Reddy and also Dr. Nick Nikam. We are on American Pulse on 99.5 FM, and this is sponsored. And thanks to Radio Dabang for your, and the listeners.
Yes.
And giving the opportunity to voice our opinions so that listeners can make a right decision during midterm elections.